Welcome back to Film Snap Friends. Today I'm going to explain a funny recent movie released in 2024 called Roadhouse. In this movie, you will see the story of a UFC fighter whose mind is a bit altered. If he gets angry once, he can knock out the person in front of him. The movie is very interesting, so you should stick around till the end. At the beginning of the movie, we see a girl who comes to a fight club looking for a boxer named Carter Ford. The bartender points to the tattooed boxer and tells her, "That's him, the one with the tattoo." That boxer had knocked out 6 boxers one by one. No one could match him, and that's when our hero Dalton enters the scene. As soon as Dalton steps into the ring to accept Carter's challenge, Carter's condition worsens, and he immediately leaves the ring, intimidated by Dalton's presence. From this, one can gauge how dangerous a fighter Dalton must be. According to the rules here, the fighter who lasts till the end in the ring is declared the winner of the fight night. So Dalton is declared the winner and given the prize money. As soon as he leaves the club with the money, a gambler stabs him saying, "You made me lose $500." In other words, he must have bet on Carter's win. Despite being stabbed, Dalton remains completely cool and forgives the gambler. In the meantime, the girl who was looking for Carter earlier approaches Dalton. She had come to the fight club with something for Dalton. She tells him that she is the owner of a roadhouse in Florida where some goons create trouble every day. The police don't do anything, so she needs a bouncer to handle them. She offers Dalton $5,000 per week, but he refuses to work with her. Dalton has no home of his own and no family. He is a struggling man, sleeping in his car wherever he finds a place. One night, his mind snaps and he parks his car on a train track, waiting for the train to end his life. Just as the train approaches, he realizes that this is not the right time for him to die. He immediately starts the car and drives away, as the train crushes the rear of his car. Now he doesn't even have a car to sleep in, so the next morning, he takes a bus to Florida. In Florida, he meets a girl named Charlie who runs a bookstore by the highway. She tries to sell him a book based on a local tree, but Dalton doesn't have any money. Still, Charlie gifts him the book. Charlie and her father are quite practical people. Following their directions, Dalton reaches the roadhouse. As soon as he enters the club, he meets the bartender Julia, who is quite beautiful and plump. Just then, a waiter recognizes Dalton. It turns out that Dalton is his idol. Seeing the beautiful seaside location, Dalton is overjoyed and exclaims, "What a nice place! How peaceful it is here!" But as night falls, the situation takes a turn for the worse. 2 parties start fighting, with someone breaking bottles and someone else cracking someone's head. The club's waiter Billy somehow calms the situation by reasoning with them. After some time, a gang of bikers arrives and starts causing trouble without any reason as soon as they enter. The owner of this club, Frankie, doesn't have the courage to say anything to them. In the meantime, the goons start misbehaving with a female waiter too. Then Dalton intervenes and lovingly tries to explain to them, but as the saying goes, those who don't listen to words have to listen to kicks. Dalton threatens to burn their bikes and somehow takes them out. He slaps them one by one and takes them to the hospital in Frankie's car. Meanwhile, some goons are already keeping an eye on Dalton at the hospital. They seem to be planning some big mischief. After returning from the hospital, Frankie gives Dalton his salary money so that he can arrange for a hotel stay and so on. But Dalton likes this place so much that he wants to stay on Frankie's old boat, which is quite far from the hotel. Frankie has no objection to this, but there is one problem. A crocodile lives on the shore. A few days ago it had eaten Frankie's dog, so if Dalton wants to stay there, he will have to be careful of that crocodile. Unc is also trying to explain this to him. After this, Dalton gets lost in his dreams. Suddenly in the morning, when his eyes open, Julia is waking him up, calling out to him. She has brought him breakfast. She tells him that so far they have called many bouncers, but no one has lasted more than 2 days. In this process, Julia was about to quit her job out of frustration, but now she has high hopes from Dalton. She is confident that he will set everything right, and the place will be as it used to be. After listening to Julia's complaints, he walks to Charlie's bookstore. Actually, he had some work on the computer. Charlie looks very innocent, but she can sense who poses a threat to her and who doesn't. That's why even on Dalton's one request, she agrees to give him the computer. While Dalton is busy with his work, some goons start misbehaving with a shopkeeper outside. Seeing this, Charlie immediately gets up and scolds them, but they are not afraid of her. But as soon as they see Dalton, they get scared and run away. Dalton realizes that Charlie should not be left alone in the shop, so he asks her about her parents. Charlie replies that her mother died 4 years ago, and her father has gone to his other job because selling books in this area is very difficult for them. After understanding Charlie's problem, Dalton returns to the roadhouse. On the other hand, we are shown the villain who sends his men to create trouble in the roadhouse. His name is Brandt, and he wants the trouble to continue in the roadhouse, but his main man, Dell, is still admitted to the hospital, so he remains quiet until Dell recovers. In the meantime, the roadhouse shines again like before. The number of tourists increases every evening, and their income also doubles. Everything is going well. One night after leaving the bar, Dalton is going to a restaurant to have dinner when a car tries to crush him from behind. But Dalton narrowly escapes. The car driver doesn't stop and puts the car in reverse gear and hits Dalton so hard that the car gets stuck in the middle of the bridge. 2 people were in the car who managed to get out in time, and Dalton falls off the bridge along with the car. It was his good luck that there was water below. Somehow he comes out safe and reaches his boat. Dell was already sitting there with a gun, waiting for him. Seeing the opportunity, Dalton attacks him. In the scuffle between the two, Dalton hits Dell so hard that he crashes through the window and falls straight into the water. Dell becomes a prey of the crocodile right in front of Dalton's eyes. His body is not even found by the police. Now Dalton realizes that it is important for him to find out why the biker gang has been after the roadhouse for months. There must be some reason, but Frankie is not ready to tell anything. Dalton starts suspecting that she might be running a drug racket under the guise of this club. From here he goes to Charlie's place and checks the route around the roadhouse. Drugs can't come by road, and the water area around the roadhouse is full of rocks, so big ships don't stand a chance either. In this dilemma, Dalton is just returning when a man stops him by the road and shows him a gun, threatening him to get into the car. It turns out that Brandt's boss wants to meet Dalton. By engaging him in conversation, Dalton breaks 2 of his fingers so that he can never hold a gun again, and quietly leaves from there. As soon as Brandt gets this news, he gets furious. On his table, there is also a model of the hotel, from which one can guess that he wants to capture the roadhouse. In the meantime, a call comes from jail from Dalton's father. "Son, you won't be able to do anything. Back off." Actually, Brandt's father has hired someone else for this work. That man's name is Knox, who is running away after committing a crime in someone's house. In real life, this guy is a very big UFC fighter. Many of you must be recognizing him. The next morning, Dr. Ellie, who had bandaged Dalton, comes to meet him in a boat. Earlier, they used to meet during breakfast time, but today she has come directly to his house. Dalton can't refuse her, and they set out towards the sea. When Dalton comes to know about it, he tries to get rid of her by saying that he is not a good man, that he is a notorious fighter. But Ellie doesn't care about it at all, because she has come on a date after reading about Dalton on the internet. Then she also fulfills her purpose. Meanwhile, Knox, while fleeing, reaches Brandt's den. There he meets one of Brandt's men. After some time, Brandt also arrives there, and they make a plan to play Dalton's game and wait for the right opportunity. On the other hand, Dalton also returns from the date. As soon as he arrives, the police take him for questioning in Dell's case. The senior inspector tries very hard to scare and threaten Dalton. "We will frame you in a false case, we will have you encounter," and so on. But Dalton is also a thick-skinned man. He flatly refuses to leave this city. The inspector starts beating him with the car. He immediately points the gun at Dalton. At this point, Ellie comes and pulls the inspector, giving Dalton a chance to escape. Actually, the inspector is her father. That's why she could do this. She tells that her father is a corrupt police officer. Earlier, he used to help Brandt's father in drug smuggling. When he went to jail, now he has become a pet of his son. By now, Dalton has understood the whole game that Frankie has brought him here by lying. On the other hand, some goons are shown near Charlie's bookstore carrying iron rods and cans of oil. By this time, evening has fallen and the club is packed with people. In the meantime, Knox arrives here and forcibly starts dancing with a girl. He also starts creating a ruckus without any reason. When Billy intervenes, Knox beats him badly with a golf stick. The next moment, 4 people pounce on him, but he alone overpowers all 4 of them. Seeing this, even those people who have been hiding in fear for the last few days start venting their anger on each other. Dalton tries to explain to Knox to take his men and leave, but he has come to play Dalton's band. A fight starts between the two. In no time, the people who were beating each other all unite against Dalton and beat him up badly. Dalton is about to do something big when the police led by Dr. Ellie arrive here. Everyone flees from there. As Dalton starts to leave town, he sees the bookstore on fire, done by Brandt's goons Sam, Darren Barnet, and Vince. Dalton is told that Charlie and Steven are at the hospital, but are alive. He finds Vince, who threatens him with a gun, until Dalton punches his throat and causes his trachea to collapse, so he ultimately suffocates. While disposing of the body, Dalton sees Mo, Arturo Castro, a member of Dell's gang who is the least rotten of them all. He tells Dalton of a meeting Brandt and his goons are going to have early the next day. Dalton goes by the water and finds one of Dick's corrupt deputies carrying a large case full of money onto a boat. He knocks the deputy out and plants Vince's body there with him to frame the deputy for his death. The next morning, Dalton is shown preparing a bomb on a boat. In the meantime, Ellie's father comes to him. Actually, his job was to safely deliver Brandt's money to him, but Dalton has stolen that money. That's why Brandt has kidnapped Ellie. Her father comes to Dalton as a father seeking help. Dalton makes it to Brandt's yacht and sees Dick there with him, allowing him to figure out that Dick deliberately lured him onto the boat. However, Brandt admits that he really did kidnap Ellie. Before the goons can gang up on him, Dalton blows up the boat he arrived, which belonged to Ellie's ex, on to disorient everybody. The yacht starts to sink as a result, and Dalton beats the crap out of the goons before finding Ellie. She breaks through the window and gets out, along with Dalton. Dalton fights Brandt and causes the motorboat to crash just outside the roadhouse, sending Brandt flying onto the roof. Meanwhile, Knox gets out of the water and steals a truck before crashing it into the roadhouse. When Brandt demands that Knox finally kill Dalton, Knox has enough of Brandt's behavior and he snaps his neck. Dalton and Knox then go for round 2, with Knox once again proving to be a beast, until Dalton manages to gain the upper hand and takes Knox out by stabbing him with wooden shards until he is down. Dick shows up and offers to cover for Dalton as gratitude for saving Ellie. She and Dalton share one last look before he leaves. Frankie, Billy, Laura, and the others then start to try and clean up the destruction of the roadhouse while still staying open for business. Just as Dalton gets ready to leave, he stops by the bookstore to see Charlie and Steven there once more. He says goodbye to them and leaves them with the cash bag that he took from the deputy. Dalton then hops on a bus to his next destination.